Roshan and I met last fall when I was at Ron Goodwin's class at HCC, and I was doing voter education and voter registration. And there was this really sharp, engaged student, 8 o'clock in the morning class. I got 34 people like this, and Roshan sitting up front. Every time I ask a question, he's got the answer. I'm like, man, I like this, you know. And he looked so young to me, I figured he was just a 20-year-old like everybody else. And afterwards, he approached me, and we got into a conversation. He sold me a book right there. I was like, I didn't come here to buy a book, but he's that good. And after he talks, we're going to, by the way, we're going to buy books from him, which he will autograph. And those who buy a book can have some dessert. No. It's only fair. But Roshan is a particularly open book. His whole life is an open book. And for me, it has been really exciting for him to invite me into his life and into his story, and so it only seemed fitting that I would invite him into mine. So with that, does somebody need to turn on your camera, or has it been rolling?
It's on.
Okay.
Again, I'd like to thank you all for coming. I'd like to thank you for having me, inviting me out. But before I start, would you like to tell them what Pure Justice is and who we are as an organization and what we do, and then I'll tell you what sparked it.
Yes, so a part of Roshan's story is Pure Justice, as you see, he has it on his shirt. And I am the founder of Pure Justice and the executive director, which is a nonprofit organization that focuses on criminal justice reform. And we have also started to add in economic justice platform and policy that connects to some of our ideas around criminal justice reform, because we understand that is a barrier for those who have been impacted by the criminal justice system. It came a little bit out of me trying to figure out what I could do with my law degree in a way that I felt was authentic and helpful and impactful for communities, particularly communities of color who suffer the most from our criminal justice system, but not be a part of the system. I am a natural defender, so my name, Sasha, means defender of man, ironically. And so I wanted to defend people, but not as a criminal defense attorney, not as a public defender. And I didn't know what to do with this degree. So I created a nonprofit. I work a lot around policy. And in my normal work, I'll be working for Commissioner Rodney Ellis on his policy team, starting in June. So I can tie all of this stuff together. Roshan is the co-founder of the Pure Justice, and we created it together. It kind of started as a blog for us to kind of write about these issues, and then we were like, let's just writing about it. We can do more than just write about it. And I thought it was important to have someone like Roshan to help grow this organization, because he's a person who embodies why we need the help that we need and the reforms that we need. And I feel like a lot of times we have organizations trying to fix problems without the people who have the problem at the center. And I don't necessarily always feel like that's the proper approach. And if you want to change the table, you got to bring those people to the table and let them be decision makers in that process. So that's what we do at Pure Justice. We work on policy, we do research, we also do community engagement meetings, getting the voice of the people, what do they want to see changed, and then figuring out how do we empower them to create that change right where they are.
Beautiful.
Okay. Before I start, I'm going to ask a few rhetorical questions. You don't necessarily have to answer them. I'm just asking rhetorical questions because, and the reason I'm asking the rhetorical questions is We all know that the judicial system is flawed, but yet when we bump into particular cases with particular titles, the flawedness goes out the door and it's whatever the label is. And nobody want to hear anything else or don't take the time to actually listen or pay attention to what's going on. So, first rhetorical question is, are there people walking around right now today where their life has been totally interrupted behind false accusation? Is it equally spread throughout the races and nationalities? Are there people on probation or parole right now behind false accusations? Are the people that's walking around on probation or parole behind false accusations, is it spread out equally amongst the races? Are there people in jail or prison today behind false accusations? And if so, are the people that's incarcerated, whether in prison or jail, is it equally spread out amongst the races? As a kid, growing up in Flint, Michigan, I noticed certain things about myself. It was just something special, you know, to me rather, or something different. And I really couldn't pinpoint what was really different about me, but it always seemed like everybody treated me different. It was either they either loved me or they had something against me that I didn't understand. And growing up in school, as early as the second grade, I can remember a particular teacher always made me stay after class for any and everything, even when I literally did nothing. It could be a student next to me that can speak while she was writing on the board that didn't have to be talking to me, and she would turn around and call my name. Mm-hmm. My whole family went to the school. I was one of the younger ones. My uncles and aunts, they used to have some issues, and they used to get in trouble often, but I wasn't like them. And it was as if, since we were family, they looked at me as if we were the same. And as I lived my life, you know, like I say, it was just certain things. And that's just the beginning of, I would say, setting me up for the school to prison pipeline. And when I turned 17, I wasn't living at home. I wasn't living with my mom. I was out living on my own. I thought I knew more about life than what I did, and I didn't. I thought that I had everything under control, and I thought that everybody that was around me that said they loved me, they really did. But they didn't. And one particular night, when I was 17, living out on the streets and with friends and hanging out, I decided to hang out with a female, and she ended up sneaking out, and I didn't know that she snuck out. When we were hanging out, it would have been literally the first time that I was a virgin for a while. When I did, even though I had a lot of women, I was embarrassed to do certain things because I was a late bloomer. And so I didn't do a lot like other kids. But when she came out to hang out and I was 17, we went to go pick this young lady up. It was, I wasn't driving at the time. It was two of my friends in the front. And when we went to go pick her up, she called my cell phone and told me not to come to her home. And I wasn't thinking anything of it. And I told her, no worries, we're almost there. And she said, meet her at the corner. I told her to come on. And when she came and we met her at the corner, as soon as she got in the car, she went immediately in my pants and she was touching me. I went under her shirt, I was touching her. We was doing what we wanted to do as kids when adults wasn't around. And they were watching us from the front seat. When we got back to the house, she walked in the house and walked upstairs, went in my room, and she got naked and she was under my covers and she was waiting on me. We, since I was the young guy in the group, we were still outside talking. There was a few other people in the house. It was something like pretty much a house party. Like we called ourselves the Camp Clique. And everywhere we went, everywhere I went, my crew was with me. Everywhere the crew went, we all was together. I mean, we pretty much almost went everywhere together. We did everything together. And when she walked in the house, we was outside, we were laughing, we were joking, and we were, you know, they was just playing around, you know, like, because I was the youngster and they was, you know, it's me with a female. By the time we walked in there, I noticed that she wasn't in the living room, and I asked, where was she? And they told me that she was upstairs. So when I went upstairs, and I seen her in my bed, and I lifted up the covers, and I noticed she was naked. So I took my clothes off and I did the same thing. I got in the bed with her, and everything was just uncomfortable because there was people standing in the back of the room. It was people looking through the vents. It was people just everywhere, and they was watching us. They was looking, and I couldn't get an erection. So I kept trying to get an erection, and I couldn't. I apologized to her because I couldn't get the erection. We ended up putting our clothes back on, and as we was walking down the stairs, I can remember it like it was yesterday. She was walking behind me and she stopped 2 stairs down from the bottom, and it was like a young man. My name is Roshan, his name is Rashad, and they were whispering back and forth in each other's ears. And they was looking at me and they was laughing and they was joking, and I ignored them because I had already knew that what you know they was talking about. They was laughing at me because I couldn't keep an erection, or I couldn't get an erection, and we couldn't do what we intended on doing. So I ignored them. They ended up walking back upstairs and they had consensual sex. They came back downstairs. I didn't say anything to her. I left her alone. Everybody was still hanging out. We was all just doing what we do as kids. Nothing happened that should not have happened. And by the time she got ready to go home, when we dropped her off, she said, don't take me home. Drop me back off at the corner. And again, nobody's thinking nothing of her words dropped me off at the corner because they were all college students. And I didn't live with my mom, so I didn't have to hide nothing from anybody. And when we dropped her off at the corner, instead of going in the direction of her home, she walked somewhere else. I don't know when she went home. I don't know what she did when she went where she went. But a few hours later, or the next morning, but really technically a few hours later, instead of going back to the house, we went to my friend's grandparents' house because their mom had just came home from prison, and it was Christmas. So we all wanted to surprise her. They wanted to cook her Christmas dinner. And a few hours later, one of the twins named Terrell came over to the grandparents' house and told me that the police was looking for me for kidnapping. And I didn't believe him. So when he told me, thank you, I said, it was like, yeah, right. And he was like, no, I'm for real. And it was like, okay. And he was like, all right. And that was it. It was no severity. It was no, I'm serious. It was no, hey man, dude, the police really came looking for you. Like, I thought it was like just a joke. Like, I thought he was just being stupid. And a few weeks later, because I was a freestyle, folk style, Greco, All-American State Champion wrestler, my assistant wrestling coach, which was a police officer, when I met him over at McDonald's, because we go to McDonald's after the basketball games, the football games. He patrolled the McDonald's because all the kids used to go up there. And he asked me, he said, what have I got myself into? And I'm looking at him, I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. And he's like, you know what I'm talking about. And I'm like, no, I don't. And he told me. But when he told me, the charge changed from kidnapping to rape. And nobody raped anyone. So I told him exactly what happened. And I told him from the beginning to the end how we picked her up, how we was fondling each other, how we attempted to have sex, how I couldn't get an erection, how we dropped her back off at the corner. And he told me to turn myself in the morning and write a written statement on my way. So instead of going home to write a written statement, I called the female now because I hadn't talked to her since. And I wanted to know what was going on. And when I called her, it was like she was having a party. I could hear the music in the background. She had so much enthusiasm in her voice. And it was like, hello? And I'm like, hey, LaToya, what's going on? And she wouldn't answer. She just wouldn't say anything once she heard my voice. And all you could do was just hear her breathing in the phone. So when I hung up, I called her again, and you could hear the music in the background. You can hear the enthusiasm in her voice. It was a repeat of the first call, but when she heard my voice, she wouldn't speak. All you can do is hear her breathe. And I called her again for the third time, and when I got the same reaction the third time, I didn't call her anymore. So I wrote a 16-page statement, writing everything that happened from the beginning to the end, just like I told the officer, but in great detail. I turned myself in the morning, and law enforcement took my written statement, and they released me because they said they referred it to as just an angry parent. They did give me a court date, and I was going to court. And in my mind, I was laughing. It was all a joke to me because I knew nobody got kidnapped. Nobody was raped, and everything that happened because we all wanted it to happen. Like, Nothing happened out of order. Nothing happened that should not have happened. So in my mind, I thought it was a big joke. I'm like, there's nothing nobody can do to me, you know. I had my friends at the time asking me that was there if they should come to court with me. They went to college around on the outer cities like Central Michigan. They went to college outside of Flint, and I told them no. I told them that I didn't need them. I didn't think that I was going to actually need them in the courtroom, because I really believed that when I was in the courtroom, that if I told the truth, the whole truth and nothing but the truth, everything would be okay. But it wasn't. And ultimately, right before my birthday, they told me, my lawyer said that I'm being charged with statutory. They charged me with statutory rape, and he told me that a CSC in the fourth degree, criminal sexual conduct in the fourth degree, that I'm gonna get 15 years in prison if I don't sign this plea deal. And he said I either sign this plea deal and get 6 months ankle monitor, 4 years probation, and 10 years to register as a sex offender. I was 17 years old. So that means I should have been off the sex offender registry when I was 27. I didn't want to do 15 years in prison. I was only 17, and I couldn't imagine doing like 24 hours in a jail cell. And you talking about 15 years, it was like my life over. So I didn't want to sign that plea deal, but I did because I felt like I had no other choice. And I signed it, and I was still living my regular life. You know, I had my ankle monitor on. I didn't know how this would affect me. So I signed a plea deal, and the only thing I knew as a kid was that I was free. Sorry.
Take your time.
So I signed.
Talk to her. Tell her that story. Talk to her. Yeah. Sit in front of him. Sit in front of him and hold his hand and let him talk to you.
I think he wants to tell it his way. And you, listen, this is something that, it's okay to be vulnerable, okay? This is a safe space, and you've written about it. And I think it's good to share how you do it, okay? So this is fun. Just take a breather, take a breath, and just continue to explain it, because the purpose is to share. The purpose is to share why we do what we do, and why you're telling people what this means. And while it is personally impactful to you, it's even more important to share with people. So, I mean, you should be upset. It's okay to be hurt. It's okay to show how hurtful it is. But until more people understand the true impact of that hurt, they're not gonna get involved, and this won't change, okay?
So I signed a plea deal, and I didn't understand how it affected. I didn't understand how it affected me at all. Actually, because everything was still the same. The only thing that was different was I had an ankle monitor on my leg. I had a probation officer. But I thought it'd all go away. One day. And I completed everything that I was supposed to do. Even though I shouldn't have never been there in the first place. Because when they charged me with statutory, and I was 17, and me and the young lady is 1 year and 4 months apart. Literally, we are 1 year and 4 months apart. And the laws state that you can't legally have sex, or you can't legally do anything in Michigan unless you have a legal parent or guardian's consent. And neither one of us had a legal parent or guardian's consent. And they said that pretty much the law states that if you're 16 years old and under, then you're a minor. And I was 17. And her mom was so mad, and her mom was so furious that she just wanted me punished by any means necessary because she couldn't control her daughter. And I didn't understand it. I didn't think it was nothing that they can do to me, but they did. And when my time should have been up, it wasn't. When 27 years came, I got a daughter on the way, and they didn't let me off the sex offender registry. And in my mind, I said, well, maybe it's next year they'll let me go. And I asked. When next year came, they didn't let me off the registry. So I said, maybe it's the next year. And the next year came, and they didn't let me off the registry. So what I did, I had a mutual friend, because Flint is so small that everyone knows everyone. I had a mutual friend reach out to the young lady to see if she would help me, because I thought that it was like she was my key. And when they reached out to her, she refused. And I didn't understand why. And then I thought about it. I said, well, if anyone had the power to help me or help me fix this situation, it will be the other party that was there. The other party that, was with me. And I know it's the right thing to do, so it's what she should do, but she didn't. And I said, well, if I had to go through everything I went through for over 10 years now, then maybe she was thinking that if she would have did something that somebody would have got in trouble, like her or her mom or somebody, in that era, but that was not my focus. I just wanted to be free. I just wanted to have my name clear. I just wanted to live a regular life. I just wanted to have a decent life like everybody else. And she refused to help me. So I reached out to churches around Texas because I was living here. I reached out to churches around Flint and Detroit because that's where the case happened. I reached out to lawyers because in my mind, I felt like, well, if anybody who got the power that could possibly do something for me, somebody would help me. And I tried to reach out to as many famous people as I could to see if just anybody can help me. I was looking for the first person to come help me, just anybody. And the churches started sending me sympathy letters back, and I wasn't looking for sympathy, I needed help. The lawyers were telling me that they had helped me, but they was asking for like 150 grand and 100 grand and 80 grand, and I'm like, how you think I'm gonna make this money? I can't even keep a job. I can't even get a job. Like, people won't even hire me for a decent wage. The only thing people will hire me is for kid money, and I'm barely surviving. Like, where do you think I'm gonna get this money from? And then I had a few people that wanted to take the show on TV, and they was gonna give us the lie detector test upon my request. And we had Tyra Banks, we had Steve Wilco, and Justine Quero. And each show, when they called the young lady, she declined every single show. And then she changed her number when the third show called her. She changed her number. She didn't want to be contacted. So I researched the laws, and I noticed that the laws in Michigan did change from a 10-year registry to a 15-year registry. So in my mind, I said, well, I only have a little bit more time left, and I can make it. I can do this. I can handle this. And then when 15 years came, they still refused to let me off. My birthday is coming on May 28th of this year, and I'll be 37 years old. That means I'm 10 years overdue. I'm 10 years over the registry from a case that wasn't a crime because we both was kids. And they said that, well, some people say that because I touched her, or because we had physical contact, that it was a crime. But it's not. We both were kids. We both were under 18. Neither one of us had legal parent guardian consent. Why am I the only one on the sex offender registry? Why ain't she on the sex offender registry? She touched me too. It was consensual. It was mutual. She snuck out. I didn't. And it's like, so I wrote the book, Stolen Identity, because it talks about how the judicial system defines us as individuals, and the judicial system tells us who we are. And once the judicial system tells us who we are and define us as an individual with a criminal background or a criminal record, then most people end up conforming to whatever that criminal record is, because everybody around them that don't know any better or don't know anything, they look at your criminal background and they tell you where you can't live and where you can't work, or what they not gonna pay you, or what you can and can't do, and you know what building you can go in and what building you can't go in, and if you can go to school or not. And then some charges is worse than others, like mine. I got the worst charge there is to be charged with, and it shouldn't be, but it is. So now I have to take a negative and fight for everybody that may walk through the same door that I have walked through when I was 17 without any guidance. My name is Roshan. Thank y'all for listening to my open book.
Thank you, Sean.
To any questions you may have. It don't matter. I know some questions can be tough. If you want to know, if you have something you need clearance, just ask me. And
I have more of a comment, I guess. I belong to this program at my church called Celebrate Recovery. I don't know if anybody here is familiar with that. It's along between the 12-step AA, but it's biblical based and it's for hurts, hang-ups, and habits. And one thing that we say, in all our meetings, is that there's healing in tears. We are not allowed to give a tissue, put a hand on you, or anything to stop you from feeling that emotion. I really thought that I would share that. It is healing in tears.
Yes.
And we allow you to have that moment. Don't ever deny yourself of that. And like I say, it is one of our guidelines. Do not hand a tissue or touch that person or do anything to try to prevent that person from healing. Because every time you shed a tear, you're healing. And you need to know that. Because we say too many times that men are supposed to be strong and macho and this and that. You are a person just like I'm a person. And you have to heal. And the only way to heal is to let it go. I just wanted to share that with you. Man, I really enjoyed your story.
Thank
Can I ask you a question?
you. Mhm.
When you were going through the court process, I know you said that you weren't living with your mom or your parents. Did they ever try to support you or give you any type of guidance when you came to the court proceedings?
I never met my father. I only seen pictures of him. I don't even know what he sounded like. The first time I met my only brother I have left, I had 3 brothers. The other 2 died in the street war. I met him last 4th of July with all my uncles and cousins for the first time. And I went to go visit twice now. My mom, at the time, she moved to California, so she wasn't around. Yeah.
I'm sorry that you didn't have somebody that was advocating for you.
I didn't think I needed anybody. I thought I can handle it by myself. I didn't think that there was nothing I needed anybody for because there was no, there was nothing. The only issue there was an in-home issue. And that in-home issue should have been taken care of with that mom and that daughter. I had nothing to do with that. But yet, they chose to punish me. And now, it followed me and it's gonna follow me forever for the rest of my life. And I'm never gonna be able to get rid of it. So the only thing that I can do is instead of continuously let people beat me down and bash me and humiliate me every step of the way and every chance that they get, I just have to be open and I have to talk about it because nobody talks about stuff like this. I'm not the only one. I'm just the only one talking about it. So I have to be a voice for the voiceless. I have to fight for those that's not fighting. And I have to show people that you really don't have to be afraid. I'm all with the Me Too movement because if you do something that you shouldn't be doing with somebody, then you do need to be punished. But at the same token, we hold people accountable for doing things that they shouldn't with other people. We need to be holding people accountable that create false allegations and accusations that ruin the rest of people's lives. Because it's hurtful no matter what end of the stick you get hit with. Whether it's the false accusation or if you're the person who get hit with somebody from being touched inappropriately when you should not have been. So everybody needs to be punished that do something wrong.
It's very interesting in Michelle Alexander's book, The New Jim Crow, that she's talking about it. We don't talk about it. That people go away and is incarcerated, and you're asking children where their loved ones are. They know where they are, but they will answer with, "Oh, we just took a little vacation," something, because it's such a stigma to it until they can even talk about it, and it's very, So for you to talk about it and to shed light in the corner of that darkness.
Yeah.
Rashawn, you said you're going to be on the sex offender registry for the rest of your life. There's no way to get that cleared.
Texas, what Michigan did, and this is all assumption, it's not fact, but they charged me with the lowest charge that they can charge me with, and it was a misdemeanor. But when I came here to Texas, Texas changed my charge into a felony here, and Texas is the state that want me to register for the rest of my life. Since I came here, then this is it.
So can I just explain to them how it works from a legal standpoint? As Roshan talked about in Michigan, you know, the laws change. And right now, honestly, Wade said the charge, and I couldn't believe what he was telling me. So I got all his court records and all the transcripts and went through everything and read about it. The charge that he has in Michigan says maximum 2 years of confinement or a $500 fine, period. And the prosecuting attorney asked for the registry. And they also asked that he doesn't qualify for what they had at the time, which is called the Home Youth Training Program, which would allow him to have this on his record, but then it'd be sealed and never be seen again. And the prosecuting attorney asked for that not to be the case, that he didn't get that privilege on purpose, which is problematic. But anyway, at 25 years, because now the statute in Michigan for registry, even with the smallest amount of or crime, it's a 25-year registry.
Changed.
It's a 25-year registry. And what people don't know is that when you move from state to state, the state that you move to has some kind of a jurisdiction over your case. So while his case happened in Michigan, here in Texas, they don't have the exact charge that he was charged with in Michigan. They have to find one that's similar. And they have only a harsher charge here, which is a felony charge, and it requires a lifetime registry. Now, for Roshan, what will have to happen for him to get off in 25 years? Well, not 25, what, 7 to 8 additional years from now, which is already egregious. He would have to go and change his registry back in Michigan, like his residency. Then he would be a Michigan resident and not have the requirement. But at any point, if he came back to Texas and wanted to be a Texas resident, like he could come live here in Texas and never change over his residency. But if he wanted to be identified as a Texas resident, he would have a lifetime registry, hands down. Currently, the Michigan Attorney General is challenging these laws because what she has said is that they basically, and she cites a Supreme Court case, is that you're lumping all sex crimes into one thing, you're treating everybody the same, and you're ultimately creating a permanent underclass, like treating people like lepers, like outcasts, and that shouldn't be. So there may be some developments around what that looks like in the state of Michigan. There are other jurisdictions that are picking up on this and thinking through what this should mean. But the only option for him at this moment would be wait the additional 7 years and transfer his residency to Michigan. It would be to try to get a governor's pardon. A governor could get him off the list as well. And there's also the other, we tried the Romeo and Juliet laws, where it says that the people of the same age or within the same, like a 4-year age gap, could come off the registry if this happened at the same particular time. This was a development that happened in 2011. whereas Roshan was saying the young lady was 16, he was 17, they will fall under this Romeo and Juliet thing where people of the same peers get into relationships. And we did try to challenge that in the Michigan court last year. And the prosecutor and attorney was like, well, no, I don't think it was consensual. I don't, you know, I actually need to, I don't think we want to let him off. So I want to go find somebody or find my files or see if the family or the parents think it's okay for us to let him off. And so that was it's a roadblock, and it's something that we're still kind of trying to look into.
You're talking about the so-called victim's family?
Mhm. Yeah. The other thing that we had available, possibly that I've looked into the other avenue, legal avenue, would be to challenge his attorney to say that he offered ineffective assistance of counsel, which would qualify him to get a new trial. If I can show that his attorney, based on the transcripts, and it said in the transcripts when the judge asked Roshan, did your attorney tell you about the sex offender registry? The attorney said no. And then the judge attempted to explain to Roshan what that meant. Like, he just said, well, you have to register as a sex offender, but not the impact, not what that actually means. I do think that would be ineffective assistance. There's a possibility that we could bring that motion up and he get a new trial. The hesitancy for me is our trials fair?
Right.
Is that the right trial, that the right case to bring in a client in a Me Too? What would that look like? What the real punishment could be if it doesn't go right? Is it worth it? You know, but that's not for me to decide. It's for Roshan to figure out, you know, the value in doing that for fairness, but being very honest about what it could look like if it goes wrong. You know, and he's already been through enough. So, you know, those are the options. Those are the legalities behind what's going on. But I thank you for sharing your story.
Thank you for writing the book.
It's powerful. You know, and you take the power away from the stigma when you just are saying, like, this is what's going on. When you're open and honest about it, you know, you take away what could have been used as negative in such a bad way, and you're building community around you and supporters. So you should be happy about that.
Roshan, when I read your book, it really flipped my whole perception. I mean, I never really thought about sex offender status. I just thought if somebody has that label, that's who they are, and, you know, we need to put signs on their doors so that everybody knows to stay clear of them. I mean, I fell into that belief system. I don't remember anybody telling me that, but then I read your story and got to know you, and it really flipped my whole perception as to fitting it into the little bit that I already knew about how criminal justice works and how the traps are set and how the intention is to take away people's ability to be productive members of society. And so I really wanted to thank you for taking that risk and that vulnerability so that somebody like me would have the opportunity to see it in a different way.
Also for me, I work in criminal justice. I work as a juvenile probation and it's something that I see very often, you know, the stigma, and it seems like a lot of the time there are certain that are held back a little bit longer versus, you know, others that are pushed out. And, you know, all I see are offenses all day, all different types of offenses. And I think differently because for me, I think innocent until proven guilty, not guilty until proven innocent. But in stories like yours, I never would think when looking at those offenses like, man, how is that going to affect this kid later? You know, because it's just constantly It's a revolving door. We call them lifers, or we call them frequent flyers. You know, my deputy laughs and says business is booming because we get kids and a lot of the same kids over and over and over again. And, you know, we should be wanting to inspire to stop seeing those same exact kids and trying to make a change so that
You know.
we can do something else.
I just wanted to say that I'm glad you shared your story. And when this is my third book, and when I heard that your book was going to be a book, I definitely wanted to come to hear it. Because of course I've seen, stories on social media, about, things has happened like this, watching the news. And I know you said that your mom, with your mom, you could be my son. And you could be my son, and I could be your mom in loving you in my home. And this still could have happened to you. And it makes me sad that this has happened to so many young men, especially men of color. It makes me really sad that we have these laws and we need to do something about them. And that we just are bought. Today I thought about that today. And that word came to me that we have just bought into the system that we live in. We just think that we're just fine, it's okay, if we got degrees, if we got that, everything's working fine. But we just have bought into some of the biggest lies.
Yes.
And the system that your life has to go like this. And I didn't know your ending. And so I'm thinking in my mind, he's gonna come here, he's gonna say, well, and this is how I got out of this. And then I got out of this. That's what I was hoping. I didn't know that, And just thanks for sharing. And I hope that you keep sharing.
I am.
And I remember one time when I was at the center, and we had some young seniors and juniors coming, and that was when this movie was out, we had the
Wakanda, the Black Panther.
Yeah. And so Sherry gave a talk, and so she talked to the kids, and she apologized
I remember that.
for them, for us not being able to help them. And so she asked us if we felt like that. And at the time I thought, that's okay, but that's something I really didn't feel, because I always felt like I helped when I saw it, which is listening to your story. Today it made me feel like I just want to apologize. Because I feel like that you had to go through something like this. It didn't matter. It didn't really, it does matter, but it didn't matter that you had to live out in however you were living. You still had a right, like anybody else that was living in a home with their mom and dad. You still had a right. And that, that a prosecuting attorney, that they turn their eye just because of the color of your skin, let's just say it. Your skin, your pocketbook, and they think that that's fair. And it's not fair. And I just want to apologize that you had to go through that.
Because
And keep
actually,
sharing.
what may take to happen in order for other people don't have to go through it. Maybe I am the key.
Mm-hmm.
And,
Yes.
like they say, we all, we all have purpose. And I don't know what type of religion everyone has in this house, but I do want to say this. I believe in a higher power. And I believe that, the higher power is a really patient higher power. And I believe that the way we live our life, what we go through, our surroundings and the decisions and choices that we make is nothing but a job resume We are preparing ourselves to do something great that we don't understand about what we are preparing for, and he put, or she, the higher power, put jobs in front of us, and some of us have the tools to make the job happen. We could be the best at the job, but we all don't accept the job because we are afraid to accept the job. For whatever reason, we are afraid to accept the job. And I'm not afraid to accept the job because I've already been through so much pain. I'm still hurting now, but I'm not gonna whine, I'm not gonna pout, I'm not gonna sit down, I'm not gonna fold, I'm not gonna shut up. I'm gonna keep pushing, and I'm gonna keep striving, and I'm gonna keep striving not for me, but for everybody that's behind me. And on a different note, I just want to say this. Looking at my case, and when people look at me, if I go apply for whatever, a job, or want to go move somewhere, most people actually love me. They like to talk to me. They want me to come work for their company. They want me to represent their company. But when they pull my record and see CSC in a fourth degree, or criminal sexual conduct in a fourth degree, or statutory, it appears that I touch kids because I'm grown. They have no idea that I was 17 and the young lady was a year and 4 months under me. They have no idea. The only thing that they see is who I am and my age today and a charge, statutory, and that's all they get. And everything that looked like it was possible just disappears.
Let me ask you this, when they get that information, are the dates on there? Do they have the date that you committed that? Or you supposedly committed that? You know, with no date
You
on
gotta
it.
buy the records.
Excuse me?
You have to buy the records.
No, but what I'm saying, you said like, you know, you go to apply for a job and they get those records, right? So that's what I'm saying, to your knowledge?
They only see the charge.
Oh, there's no dates?
On the public, I mean, it's public record. If you Google them, it'll come up, it'll say what the charge is, it'll say the age of the victim. Put the age of the victim.
But they won't put
16.
the date that, oh,
No,
So
no.
you will see her age,
Misleading.
but you won't see my age
That's
at
what I'm
the time
saying.
she was her age.
That's what I'm saying, misleading.
Yeah.
So
That right
every
there.
year I get older, her age stay the same.
Yeah.
I do have a question for you. Well, I guess two things, and part of them kind of connects with what they said. So one thing I heard you say was that you had a daughter and how that might affect everything, but then I guess like, because you're still on the list, and because I'm assuming your daughter is still living, and that you have all these things that are still playing out, like how do you handle it internally in terms of like, one, like healing yourself from what's happened, knowing that it's still happening. I know part of that must be, you know, your faith, but also like how do you even process an injustice like that and for yourself? Like, it's one thing to do it for the people behind you, but it still happened to you, right? So like, how do you deal with that?
I just take it one day at a time. And technically when it comes to my daughter, like, she 11 now. And it's sad to say that we, as humans, have tendencies to use tools that we think can give us leverage in life or leverage over others, or, you know, we have tendencies to use certain tools to try to break people, break them down and destroy them, especially when we get angry or upset, when things don't work out the way we planned on it to work out. And in Texas, Michigan, probably, I don't know, every state, I don't know, I haven't looked at all the state laws, but I'm not supposed to be around children unless they are accompanied by an adult. And technically, when I see kids, I don't like to be around kids because of that. And I don't want people to use my case as leverage, like my baby mom. I can't even see my daughter, and she keep my daughter away from me. And can remember one time paid for a birthday party at the kids museum for her and all her classmates. And my baby mom told me, because she was angry, that I better not come in there, or she's gonna tell everybody I'm a sex offender. And I didn't go in, so I let them have fun. I just stayed outside the whole time. So, and that's what I've been dealing with.
So there's a Pure Justice, are there other individuals in the same situation that you are in that you?
Actually, I'm the only. We have people that have been funneled through the system or been in the system. We have like people who want to be like productive citizens, but as far as a sex offender, labeled sex offender, I am the only.
Can I share with him about last year when you went to the gymnastics?
Yeah.
Okay, so guys, like I am an investigator. Like I am a true investigator at heart. I will get to the bottom of anything. It's better than the CIA. And so one of the things that bothers me so much is that Roshan is such a loving person. He wants to be a part of his daughter's life, and him and his, baby mom or however you would like to address her, they have this dynamic, and he just was like, what he shared with you guys, he shared with me also, and I was just like, but that's not true. So the other thing is also being able to be blessed to educate people on what's really true, what's facts. And so I was like, well, we're just gonna find her. We're gonna find out what school does she go to, what things does she get into, what ways that you can see what she has going on. And so I found out that his daughter is a gymnast. She's so talented. And found out where she goes to gymnastics and found out when she has her competitions. And so last year, we were able to go and see like her in her competitions. Of course, my mom was there, and of course, when she saw him, she was pissed. Like she was so pissed, and she messaged them and said, you are not even supposed to be around kids. She did exactly what he said she was gonna do, and I said, she can't do that because she's actually harassing you. So I was like, this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna tell her to stop. If she continues, then I'm gonna send her a cease and desist. So she continued, and she's telling him something that's not accurate. He can go wherever children are, because in a place like this, they're all under supervision. He can go wherever he wants to. Nobody can make him leave. It's public. So she continued, and I sent her a cease and desist. She was so upset. Of course, now she won't message him and respond to anything. So maybe I went too far. I don't know. But I needed her to understand that you don't get to do this to people. You don't get to hold this over somebody's head. And that if you continue the system you're trying to use against him, I will use against you if you don't stop it. So she stopped it. Now we'll just have to figure out how to make sure that we get him the rights that he's entitled to have his daughter in his life. But it's just being able to share that knowledge of the navigating the system that he doesn't want anything to do with because it's so terrible and has been so terrible to him. But being able to use what I have available to say, we can make this work, right? We can figure out how to do this. So.
Yes, Sasha.
One thing you told me about the work of Pure Justice is when somebody has been accused of a crime and is going to be tried, and they don't have adequate defense. And so you're helping them pull together all of the documents that they need.
Case
so that-
reviews.
Yeah, case reviews, so that, and then maybe you can present that neat package to somebody who will say, oh, yes, I'll defend this one for free or on the cheap. Will you tell us a little bit more
Well,
about that?
The case reviews is more so with people who actually already been sentenced and like been through the system. So with the case reviews, it's like we look at your case, we research your case, and we see if you have options available to get your record sealed or expunged. Because most times when we get sucked into the system, we just accept life as it is. And we don't understand or don't know how to go about getting our record sealed or expunged. And instead of maximizing our life potential, we settling for whatever people want to give us because of the stigma we have on our back from whatever case we have. And most people who have these cases that don't know how to get rid of them or won't go get rid of them are people of color. And that's because they are afraid of the court system. They're afraid to have anything to do with anything that have to do with a courthouse. They don't want to go into a law firm because they know if you go into a law firm, it costs too much money. Even to have somebody just look into your case, you're gonna have to pay somebody probably minimum no less than $1,200. Nobody want to do anything for free. So we take the time out to look into your case to see what you have available and see how we can assist you on getting your record cleared or expunged so that it don't be a burden for the rest of your life.
That's amazing. That is great work.
How do you connect with your clients? I'm not sure what you call them, but
Members,
members, yeah.
family.
Yeah. But how do you connect with them? Like, how do they come and hear about you?
I do book signings every week. I'm always talking
Yeah.
to people. I speak to kids, I speak to adults, I speak to everybody.
Yeah.
Are you,
And I try to bring everybody, home with us, to the Pure Justice Organization, because I know that if you want to create change, a lot of times it's simply with numbers. You can have a nice, strong core group and some numbers, and you can sit behind closed doors with people that you need to talk to in order to make change, and they just see the support system you have behind you, and it's easier for them to assist you in whatever change you need to be changed, especially when they know that something is not right or they are doing something that is not right. They do not want the heat when you have the support system. But if you don't have the support system, nobody want to do anything that have morals.
Do you have any judges?
Social media.
Any judges? Because we have a bunch of
You want
newly elected black African American women judges.
Okay. And since you bring that up, I wasn't gonna say anything. But last school semester, actually, this should have been my last semester, and I should have been graduating in May yesterday, which I still graduated. They had to change my degree plan in order for me to graduate on time. But last fall, right at the end of the semester, I didn't have many assignments to do in any of my classes, and this semester I should have been doing nothing but electives, simple classes, easy classes. I was kicked out of my schooling. The semester, right before my last semester, I was kicked out because of my case. That happened to me when I was 17 years old. They took me away from school, and they kicked me out of school because they said that I didn't register. Now, I registered. I'm registered with the state. I do everything I'm supposed to do with the state. My case and my story is not a secret. I wrote a book about it. I sell my book to everybody. I sell it to the students. I sell it to the deans. I sell it to the professors. I'm talking to the students and the deans, and I'm out in the world talking about my story because I want everybody to know what I had to go. I need everybody to understand what I went through because I don't want anybody else to go through what I've been through. So, the school was well aware, but law enforcement, HCCPD, are the ones that called and made the decision to kick me out. Well, them and another dean, one of the deans in HCCPD that didn't know anything about my story because I guess they were some of the few that didn't get a chance to read my book. Took me out of school. When they took me out of school, one of the judges, because I promoted, I pushed, I campaigned the judges, you know, I tried to change faces, you know, in the courthouse, and I didn't bring one vote, I brought votes. I brought many votes. I brought judicial candidates up to the school so they can talk to the students, just so the students can understand why it's so important to get out and vote and who they are voting for. And when I got kicked out of school, one of the judicial candidates that got elected hired me as an intern, not paid. I was working.
Good for you.
And I actually looked at her like a mentor, you know, very smart, gave me a chance before I made it to law school. She know what direction I'm headed in. She's read my book, and she wanted to just walk with me on my journey. And since I was kicked out of HCC for failure to register, even though I was registered with the state, but they said I didn't tell the police department at HCC, I was arrested at the courthouse. I was in the judge's chambers with the judge. Me and the judge were sitting back. We were talking, and they came back there, put me in handcuffs in her chambers. Me nor her knew what was going on. We didn't understand what was going on, and they walked me through the courthouse in handcuffs because of my case that happened to me when I was 17 years old. And I felt that, and these are my personal feelings, I felt that since the judges and the candidates, they ran on criminal justice reform, I don't care if you were civil or criminal, they ran on a platform to gather criminal justice reform, and I thought that it was the perfect time and the perfect opportunity for especially the judge that I was interning for to stand up for me and tell the people as to why I deserve not a second chance but a first chance, and why I deserve to be an intern in the courthouse. And she disowned me. She turned her back and she disconnected all communications, unfriended me on all social medias because she couldn't take the heat of having a sex offender intern in her courthouse when she know my story.
And also like got a lot of public attention. I think that was her reason. First of all, no, people will get walked out of courthouses all the time in handcuffs. And it's a fucking courthouse, right? It's a courthouse. But because of the judges and because of this charge, the media got a hold of this. And I mean, I have never seen anything like this in my life. Media, not just like a media station, multiple media stations showed up to his court date, showed up to the judge's chamber. It's just, and a lot of this has a lot to do with the flipping of the judges, you know, who Roshan is, and like he said, it was a chance for this particular judge to say what needed to be said at the time to really strengthen their platform, but didn't because they're like, well, I'm an elected official. And I was like, you work in the most secure place in Harris County.
What are you doing it for if you're not using it?
You're the most secure people in Harris County. If he was a danger to anybody, it wouldn't be in the courthouse, you know. it just wouldn't be. And I just was like, if he gets a job anywhere, it should be somewhere like this. Everybody's there, everybody's watching, everybody's armed, why? That doesn't make any sense. So the politics are bad. Everybody knows politics are not good. So, that for that particular judge left a very not so good taste in my mouth. But I think that also highlights for Roshan to look for authentic relationships, not to be used or manipulated as a face of somebody else's campaign. What that means to holding people accountable for the words that they say, the platforms that they're running on. Because that's hurtful to somebody like him. Because he's an authentic person. And I think that the expectation of, help, not help in like get me out of trouble help, but to say, this is why we do the work that we do, this is why we run the campaigns that we run, these are why elections are important, because we are trying to change how this works. Something as simple as that probably would have been helpful, even if she never mentioned what should or should not happen in this case. And now we have to go to court on Monday because of the same thing. This is,
Wow.
and to deal with it, to say, I have to deal with his attorney because I can't represent him here, but to tell his attorney, this is how you need to approach the situation because the situation has already took care of itself. He was able to, like the school was like, oh, okay, we fixed this here. Now, this is what you need to do. You need to go talk after they called the police, after they got a warrant, after they kicked him out of school, after he went and got arrested. It was, oh, hey, you just need to go and talk to this police officer on the campus, fill out this paperwork, and then you can come in and be reinstated in school. It doesn't take away the fact now he has to go and deal with the court system. And so now I have to tell his attorney, hey, you go in there and tell them if they punish him when what is done, it's already fixed, the problem has fixed itself, you're doing it just to punish. And that is not reform. It is not good for taxpayer dollars. You are using up our judicial resources. You are clogging up our system for no apparent reason because the school has fixed it. The problem is solved.
Personal vendetta.
Yeah. So that is what we'll be dealing with this upcoming week. So you guys can keep us in your prayers because at this point, if the prosecutors decide, well, we want to punish him anyway, they can literally send him to prison for just not saying hi to the police at the school, even though the city of Houston knew, and it's all public record. And he can go to the state penitentiary for that. Just that small thing.
Well, I suppose we could sit here and listen and ask you things all night, but anybody who wants to stay after is welcome to. I encourage everybody to support Roshan and his work by buying his book, which he'll autograph for you. And dessert is in the kitchen. Roshan, did you want to say anything in closing?
I'm just thankful that you invited me, and I'm just thankful that so many of you wonderful people came out and just to listen to my story. Like I say, I know that it's not something that you hear all the time, and I know that it's something that most people will not talk about because of how embarrassing certain topics can be. And I'm just happy that I have the strength to actually say it. And I'm just happy that you guys have the strength to actually listen. And I just thank you all for coming out.
Say something, I have this need to say this. I have two sisters younger than me, that's in a nursing home. That, and I can't for the life of me understand how you can be so bad with human beings. As far as I'm concerned, everybody there should be at a hardware store and nowhere near human beings at all. Well, I just found out last night, one of the reasons they can. We just found out on the news, Texas is the worst state for nursing homes.
Oh, yeah.
Because the people on top that make the laws and everything else, you can get away with anything with the people that's in those nursing homes, and they do nothing at all about it. And so that was a long story about that. So now I understand, and it doesn't make any difference. I wanna move my sister somewhere else. If I move her somewhere, I'm moving her to the same situation, it's just a different address. But I just thought, you know, when you talk about the laws and how people are being treated, just look at the elderly. I didn't know that until last night.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right.
That's what's interesting.